The Red Sox really needed a series win here, and that's exactly what we got. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin. The Boston Red Sox finished up their season series with the Los Angeles Angels this weekend, taking 2 out of 3 games. And after an absolutely horrid start to this one, they were able to turn things around and end up with this series win, which I think is super important. The Red Sox now stand at 9-7 on the regular season, which puts them in third place in this division on the year at this point in the season. And normally, we don't talk about series in April being able to define an entire season, right? Normally, 1.8% of a season doesn't mean a whole lot in the grand scheme of things, but I do think that this series had the potential to absolutely define who the Red Sox were going forward for the entire year. I'm just glad it didn't end up being the case. So what we're going to do in today's video is we're going to break this series down. We're going to talk about the good, talk about the bad, and of course, how all of this could impact the 2024 season. But before we get into that, do me a favor. If you're new here, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. It just helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Don't forget, all these episodes now available on Spotify for you to listen to as well. So if you want to listen on the go or you just don't want to watch on YouTube, that option is now available. Link is in the description down below. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. Okay, so let's start by breaking down the offense in this one, and I think the clear offensive MVP in this series had to be Triston Casas. He had 2 home runs in this one, his first one looking like it was going to hit the truly deck at some point. He also put another one into the bullpen in the last game in this series, and Triston Casas, we know how we talked about him being a really slow starter. Yeah, I think he started up and going. He's at a 258 average with an 858 OPS, and he looks absolutely fantastic at the plate. In Rafael Devers' absence, Triston Casas is a player to fear, and even with Rafi in the lineup, obviously Tristan's still someone to fear. My question is, his power stroke's looking really good right now. I'm curious this season as to whether he ends up becoming a 30-plus home run hitter or even 35-plus home run hitter, or if he stays in that 20 to 25-plus home run range. Either way, really great series for Triston Casas. Also a fairly solid series for Tyler O'Neill. He busted out of a mini 0 for 10 slump, hitting his second absolute monster home run at Fenway Park. He currently leads all of Major League Baseball in homers. I'm praying this dude stays healthy because right now he is an extremely important part of what the Red Sox are trying to do this year. Cannot have Tyler O'Neill on the IL, but I think he'll get there at some point. Masataka Yoshida hit his first home run of 2024. He took one into the bullpen. He had been off to a really slow start in 24, and it's causing a lot of conversations about his place on the team and why he was signed. I hope this is a sign of things to change. The most encouraging part of this series is that he was getting more balls into the air, and that's something he desperately needs to do more of. It's not that Masa isn't making contact or looks lost at the plate up there. It's just simply he's hammering baseballs into the ground. If he can hammer those baseballs into the air, even on a line drive basis, he's a much more productive hitter, and it was a great sign to see that in this series. And speaking of slow starts, Wilyer Abreu, who was off to one of the slowest starts imaginable, is heating up at the plate a bit. He had 2 hits, an RBI, he scored 2 runs, and he took a walk in this series. It's a really good sign that he's getting more comfortable at the plate. Someone on Twitter compared Wilyer Abreu's 2024 start to Triston Casas's 2023 start. Casas is a really unique player where in that while he was struggling in April, he was still reaching base a ton. Wilyer wasn't really reaching base, but I can kind of see the similarities there. Maybe this is something where they're on a similar path, at least for their rookie season. That would be absolutely incredible if we got a Triston Casas season from Wilyer Abreu overall, but I do understand the sentiment that maybe he is just a slow starter. Maybe it takes him a little bit, especially with his first full season at the major league level, to get accustomed to life as a major leaguer or pitchers at this level or something like that. So give him time. I think he's going to get a lot better at the plate, and I hope we see it pretty quickly. Pablo finally did something productive with a massive RBI in the last game. Right now, he is a far cry in terms of production than what we saw last year, but it is encouraging that to see him come to life a bit in this one. I think he's a really important part of this team, at least until Grissom and Refsnyder get back against left-handed hitters. So to see him do something productive, Always a good thing. Overall, when you're looking at this Red Sox offense, they did get pieced up by Reed Detmers in the first game of this series, but overall, it's really tough to complain about really a ton of what they looked like in this series. I think one of the biggest things that I like about this Red Sox offense right now, even though I still don't think we're seeing its fully capable, realized lineup, is that they hit a lot of home runs. They can put the ball out of the yard for sure, and I think what this does is two different things. One, it absolutely puts runs up on the board as fast as humanly possible, which is always a good thing. But two, it changes the momentum of ball games. Tyler O'Neill puts one into the Lansdowne parking lot, or Tristan Casas tries to hit the Truly deck during these series, and it feels like the park came alive. It felt like the Red Sox had completely switched momentum, or took all the momentum out of the Los Angeles Angels early. I absolutely love that about hitting home runs with this offense, especially at home at Fenway Park, where the crowd can absolutely be a factor. I don't think the 2023 Red Sox did that all that much. Now, they were still a top 10 offense, so it didn't really matter if they were hitting home runs. It's a lot more fun to watch, and I think it is a lot easier to completely change the landscape of a game when you're hitting balls out of the yard, and that's exactly what this Red Sox offense is doing right now. Now, again, I will say there are still some concerns in my opinion, and that is that when they face good pitching, they don't do very well, and I understand that seems like a really dumb thing to say because good pitching is going to be really hard to do well against, but this Red Sox offense is competent. It's a good offense overall. At some point, you need to be effective against good pitchers. That's just, you're going to be facing a lot of good pitchers over the course of 162 games. You need to find a way to score runs. You can't just get shut down every single time you face a good pitcher. Corbin Burns, Reed Detmers, George Kirby absolutely piece these guys up, and you just simply can't have that for the entire season. So that's one thing to keep an eye on. But again, outside of that, you score runs in the second game, you score runs in the third game, enough to win you a series. So it's hard to overall complain about what this offense did. Let's talk about the pitching in this one as well. In terms of the pitching in this series, Tanner Houck got us started, and he cracked a little bit. He showed signs that he was human. He was able to get through 5 2/3 innings pitched, but he allowed 7 runs to cross the plate, 4 of them earned, while only striking out 2, which is much different than what we've seen so far this season from Houck. But if I'm being honest, it's hard to really be concerned or nervous about Tanner Houck's performance in this one, because your defense was terrible, so bad in this first game. I mean, we ranted about the defense for a while last series, but in this game, it may have been the worst we've seen in the last 2 years. It genuinely looked like the Red Sox were an old-timey, like, silent movie baseball skit on the field. It was rancid. It was so bad defensively. I couldn't even watch the full game, and I watch basically every game, and I tough out every single game. This one, I had to turn off my TV for a little bit. I did end up watching the last couple innings, but my God, was it that bad? And so I can't really get mad at Tanner Houck. Obviously, he didn't help things a ton, not being able to get swings and misses like he had in his first 2 starts, but we didn't expect him to have a 0 ERA forever. And I do think this start would look a whole lot better had the defense not absolutely crapped themselves early on in this series. The good news is the defense did turn it around, and turn it around in the big way. The second pitcher in this series was Cooper Criswell, who made his Red Sox debut on Saturday. He got some pretty good defense behind him, and he ended up with a start that really wasn't too bad. 4 innings, 2 earned, struck out 4. Yeah, kind of exactly what the Red Sox needed here. They simply needed someone to go out there, give them innings to start this game, to keep them in the game. That's what Cooper Criswell did. I'll take that every day of the week. Nick Pivetta already throwing again, or at least playing catch again, which is a really great sign. It probably means he will be back sooner rather than later, so you're not going to need a whole lot from Cooper Criswell, but if he can give us this for 1-2 more starts before Nick Pivetta comes back, I think the Red Sox could be in a decent place. What's nice about this is that our depth isn't absolutely terrible, so I will take that every single day. Finally, Brian Bayo finished this one off, and he had a solid outing. 1 1/3 innings, allowing 2 earned on 6 hits while striking out a really solid 8. That's not normal for Brian Bayo, above the norm a bit. I think this outing started much shakier than it ended. He looked really good in the final couple of innings. innings. For him to perform well during a day game is a really great sign, although I will say his slider is still getting hit really hard. It's getting hit at a 357 average this year with a 786 OPS, much higher than it was in 2023, and that's my main concern. Obviously, this is still a work in progress, and he's only 24 years old, so it's not like he doesn't have time to figure things out. Plus, he's only got 3 starts under his belt, or maybe 4. I can't remember the exact number, but it's not a lot of starts, right? He still has time to figure out the slider, but if you can't figure it out, it's going to be really hard to take that next step in this sort of progression for Brayan Bello. You got to get that slider nailed down, or you can't really go anywhere. As for the bullpen in this series, no meltdowns, which is all you really can ask for. It was absolutely solid, in my opinion. It was back to what the bullpen had looked like the entire year before the Orioles series. Kenley is going to kill me one of these days. He is getting the job done still. He's 100% on saves, but my God, does he do it in the worst way possible. He gets your blood boiling every single time he's out there, and then he makes excuses about it after the game. It's a Kenley Jansen. I don't know. I'm kind of out on Kenley, but he's still getting the job done, and so I really can't get that mad at him about these little things. Justin Slayton turning into one of my favorite arms in the bullpen in a while. He did allow his first earned run of the season, but he also went 2 2/3 innings to kind of wrap up this series for the Red Sox. So again, really hard to complain about Slayton. The rest of the bullpen looked pretty solid. Isaiah Campbell is on the IL now after an absolute meltdown in the Orioles series. For those of you who missed that, Chris Martin dealing day to day with a shoulder. Shouldn't be out for too long, but that's the reason we didn't see him in this series. Overall, pitching wise, I don't think there's really a ton to complain about. Again, I think Tanner Houck looks a whole lot, who is really the only bad part of this series, looks a whole lot better if you didn't have the 3 Stooges behind you in the center of your infield. So yeah, not really a ton to complain about pitching wise. It's hard to argue with any of these stat lines, really. Obviously, there's still some things to be concerned about, but nothing to really start complaining about. Just things that keep you a little uneasy that we'll see how they progress throughout the year. In terms of the series as a whole, I think this is a really important win. We talked about it at the end of the Baltimore Orioles recap, where the Red Sox essentially had 2 options here. They could either continue to sink, and that one series could define the rest of the 2024 season, or they could put themselves together and start competing again. I understand the Angels aren't the hardest opponent in the world, and I know a lot of people are going to say, well, look at when they face a bad opponent versus a good opponent. I get that. Yes, they still need to prove that they can beat a good opponent after being swept by the Orioles, but man, they came into this series probably the lowest, hopefully the lowest that they end up being the entire year. And what did they do in the first game? They absolutely crapped themselves, right? We talked about the defense, but it was genuinely the worst game of the 2024 season so far. It really did feel like this team had flat out given up, that this is what we are going to see the rest of the year, and they're just playing during their paycheck, and that's it. But instead, they turned it around. They really competed in the last 2 games. They won the last 2 games, and they picked themselves back up. And I think personally, especially for such a young team, a team that really doesn't have a lot of experience winning or winning together, this was a really important series win because it gives them the confidence that they can win. They hadn't won a game at Fenway Park yet. They did that in this series. They hadn't won a series at Fenway Park yet this year. They did that in this series. They hadn't really faced a ton of adversity until they came home and played the Baltimore Orioles, and they came back and they won this series. So when you look at it, maybe this doesn't impact the 2024 season record-wise. Honestly, it really doesn't do a whole lot in terms of your record. It's April. There's still a whole lot of season left to play, but I really do think it's super important with such a young team that they can build some confidence in themselves, and that's exactly what this Angels series should allow them to do. Now, obviously, we'll see how it plays out over the course of 162, but I really hope that this series right here could help define who the 2024 Red Sox are. They're a team that's not going to give up. They're going to scrap, and they're going to claw their way to wins or series wins, and I really like that out of the Boston Red Sox. What I saw in this series, in my opinion, was extremely encouraging, but that's just it. This is just my opinion, so let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think? Did this series mean anything to you? What'd you like? What'd you not like? And how do you think this is going to impact the 2024 campaign? Let me know all your thoughts on the latest Red Sox series in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Plus, you made it to the end here, you might as well hit that sub button. You also might as well hit that like button as well. Just helps these videos out a ton, and it'd mean a lot to me. Don't forget, Spotify, link in the description down below. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.